Now we can talk.
Hello,
Hello,
everybody. Hey,
and Amo, we are here again because we realized last time that you have a lot of friends who follow you and they don't speak Slovenian and they
yeah,
listen
exactly.
to our conversation. So I
Yeah,
decided to invite you again,
thank
and
you.
we and today you said we have a little bit of cold.
Yeah, I have a little bit of a cold last few days, some stuff, so I might talk a little bit slower actually, which will be good for everybody.
We
And so,
like it,
yeah,
and
okay.
we have a first guest. And hello, hello.
Hello.
And yes, I was thinking what we talked about last time, and I got,
Yeah,
don't
forget
worry,
about
be
it.
happy. So, Samo, who are you? I just write down for
Yeah.
this introduction that we are here again with my friend, Elf Samo
Hmm.
Bohak. Why do I call you Elf? Please
Well, it's a
explain.
funny thing, like people have many ideas about elves and it's like Lord of the Rings kind of thing, but in the end, like they're this funny, playful energy that are a little bit gesturing and fooling around, and they're really wise beings, but I don't take life so seriously. And a lot of times our mind, or especially here in Slovenia, we take things very seriously, and then things get very heavy, and then everything's just so hard to get through things. And sometimes, including myself, you work on it and you work on it, and nothing matter, and then you just relax, and it's all about relaxing into whatever is it that comes. And for me, in my experience, the elves, which are not what we think they are, it's more like a light energy being. So yeah, I don't really.
A
That's
little
just an
bit like
explanation.
these unicorns because they're also like happy
Yeah,
for
I'm
you.
kind of making fun that unicorns are more real than half of the people in the world, and I insist on that because unicorns just are who they are, and people, it's not to blame them, but people, we have all these ideas about who we are and how we should be and how things aren't, blah blah, and it's just so heavy. And
Yeah,
unicorns don't.
yeah.
So like, yeah,
I have a book about unicorns, and they said that the people are so funny because they don't understand that they are alive. They are all around us and among us, and we are these
it's
beings.
funny because the other day I was at the workshop with my teacher, and this is not his words, but he was speaking how in some parts of the world, like for example the Middle East or over there, some people, not everybody, but some people live in a much more expensive consciousness, and things are not so solid, so miracles are possible. Like miracles are nothing special. Like, of course people levitate and jump. It's like, oh my god, here's like, it's not scientific, and people get this whole mind debate. It's like, for them it's like, not that I would speak for them, but it's like, it's not an issue what's possible. Everything's possible. It's just like, is now the time for it, or is this required, or like what is required, or what's appropriate? So it's a totally different mindset that people, for various reasons, just live in. And I think one of the main things lately is trying to get more and more into that mindset, as some structures in the world try to make us more heavy and limitations and blah blah. I just go, what about not just like, I'm gonna do my own thing, and it's about like, what would it take for me to do my own thing? It's the last question
Yeah,
you
but
ask.
then you are so wrong because in this reality, they want you to not think with your head and don't be happy. Because I also have a few times, 2 days ago, I have this conversation and I have it also in my morning group to be, if you want to do something, what is your hobby? And then you explain people, okay, why don't you do this for your regular job? Yeah, yeah, no, 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 but then I will not have a hobby. The hobby is something I'm doing in the free time because this, um, this that you need to work something and this needs to be heavy and hard and you need to earn money and then in the free time you need to have hobby and they don't even want to go into this mindset that you can have a hobby for your life and be free and
Yeah.
happy all the time.
Well, it's kind of interesting because I was thinking about myself. Of course, like, what do I work? Where do I do? What's the next step? And I really love Maribor and Slovenia and our little funny land. But there's this specific way we're being programmed to think and act. And it wasn't a bad thing in the beginning. The idea was like, oh, let's have a structure and we'll all feel safe and everybody will have a place. And like, it kind of worked to a degree, maybe 100 years ago. But like, the structure worked. It wasn't bad. It didn't work perfectly, but like, people had their own place, and people believed in God and destiny, and there was no worry because like, that's just how God designed it, and it kind of worked. But now the consciousness is kind of expanding, and ideas about God and destiny are really like, yeah, falling apart to pieces, just exploding into a million pieces. And, and then we're kind of confused because that structure is no longer there and the new structure hasn't come in yet. So even for myself, at least, it's a kind of confusing space, because like an in-between space that we're in. And we cannot, I mean, myself, we don't want to build another structure. That would just fall to pieces. We want to go beyond all the structures, ideas, and possibilities of right and wrong. And that's kind of challenging because like in the past, we had changes and there were big changes, but it was just like one structure was falling, another was being built. And it's like, it's going to be no next. Of course, there will be some kind of physical structures, but like energetically speaking, as a consciousness, it's not, from my point of view, it's not a purpose to have a new structure to come in. It's just like, how about being connected to all that is all the time without thinking and acting from moment to moment? It's like, whoa, that's scary. And then the mind comes in, yeah, but, and it's like, yeah, that's the problem, because we cannot conceive that it is possible to live moment by moment, like 10-second increments or whatever you want to call it, and still create stuff. It's just not being attached to it. That's kind of the attachment is the problem, kind of noticing.
Yeah.
The problem is not that you shouldn't create stuff. Yes, I mean, you should. It's awesome. It's great. It's fun. Go create and do things and play around, but don't get stuck in it. And it's this stuckness here. We get stuck in ideas, relationships, jobs, gods, whatever, and it's kind of the stuckness that's the problem. And the gift is probably in overcoming that, because it takes a lot of courage and surrender to overcome that. So in a way, the structure that really binds us and keeps us limited is a gift, because once we overcome it, we'll be totally amazingly free. Like I was talking to a lot of my friends who lived abroad, and everybody agrees that like if you can succeed in Slovenia, you can succeed anywhere. Because anywhere else, it's so much easier. Like when you go, in my experience, when you go somewhere else, everything's more free and open because you don't have those limitations. So if you're able to overcome these limitations, then you're super strong and potent and amazing, So in the kind of way, we've been given a gift in disguise. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, that's all nice, but I have a lot of questions in between. Sure. First of all, is it just Slovenia, or just when we are going somewhere, we are more free? Because in our country, we have this feeling, I need to go, here I live, here is my home, here is my job. Then I go somewhere and then they don't know me, then I can be more like me. Because if you sometimes also other countries are not so easy. But for us, when we travel, it is. But I admit that in reality, Slovenia has a special energy. And at the same time, if you have a problem with this, who are alpha and you are much more open, you can understand then that probably most of the people who are so used to go to job and do this, like they told them and be in these programs, it will be very hard to go to this new reality without structure.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question. There's many folded answers, there's many levels on that. The one basic part is like, it's the collective trauma that's held in the collective Slovenians. Like for myself, in the last 10 years, I was about working on that. So we're kind of stuck. So like when structure is as a consequence of a trauma, that's not a good thing. Like if structure is actually working and it's something beautiful and amazing, then there's no problem. So I'm not judging structure, it's if the structure can work for somebody, it totally wouldn't work for me. And I'm also not saying everyone else is better. It's not. There are things here that are great. We almost still have like free healthcare, free education, everything. So it's like nobody's really poor here. Even the poor people are not like dying on the streets. Like I went to Iceland this summer, which is amazing and beautiful, but like there's no poor people there, and everybody has to work all the time because they have a different mindset. You can't just, what do you mean welfare? That doesn't exist. It's a different thing. So like, it's just different. But on the other hand, it's just raw nature and everything's fluid and possible and magical, and people aren't so limited in quote unquote rational understanding, which is not really rational, but it's a different debate, because they're very clever and have the best, institutions of learning, and they're really down to earth. But because they are so down to earth, they're connected with earth. They know about the elves and the fairies, and it's not this idea that you go to the workshop, it's like everyone knows it's there. It's not even, people don't speak about it every day to foreigners, because foreigners are just weird. But like, a lot of people are like, they live it, even if they wouldn't call it like that. I visited the mountain or a lake, like nature's alive, so pure and clear and clean. There's no need to debate, because if you ever went to Iceland, you know what I'm talking about. And if you haven't, you should absolutely go to Iceland, and then you will know. And here we have this, the mind is really strong, you know, for different reasons, the mind energy or the mind limitation, everything, it's like a debate and structure, and let's go debate and have 16 million points of view and really make them significant and argue with them. And it doesn't really, it's not the real living experience. So it's not that I don't like Slovenia. I love Slovenia. I just don't like this particular false, limited understanding of the mind. You know, instead of this philosopher sense of seeing the truth, like Plato or Socrates, the real ancient master of philosophy, actually, who lived philosophy, who didn't discuss it, they embodied it, and that's great. And I studied philosophy. We made it into this really heavy, weird, I'm right, you're wrong, fuck you, everybody, you know, prove me wrong, and like I'm not gonna change. And it becomes like an ego or a battle, and then it's just like, even if you win, so what? Like, you're right, you know. So it's not that I don't like here. I love this place, but there's certain things I'm just choosing not to not to go with anymore, I guess.
Yeah. It's interesting that and on Monday you didn't manage, but I was in this lecture of Pater Grjan, Paul Grjan, and he also was talking about that. He said that we are so into this. He said even that now this science world, they become this alpha. You cannot even doubt, and you don't have the right to think at all. You just need to listen because they said like that. And he even said that he will announce officially that he is not the scientist anymore. And all these, you know, doctors and official titles, that he don't like it anymore, and he will return it, because science should be moving ideas to explore, not to set the limits. And he was a little bit sad about that, and he said that's not okay. Scientists should be opening the mind.
Yeah, I agree with him. I love him. He's like, for me, he's a living saint, and he is that. It's not an idea. He walks into the room and just you can feel the light and the kindness and the love. But what I love about him, he's really intelligent, not just clever. He's like super intelligent. I read all his books, and he's amazing. Like, you know, he has mastered the mind, and then he went beyond it. And what I love about him, and he has all the three parts, like the mind, what's the mind, the energy, or the soul, whatever it is. You know, like he embodies what he speaks, and you know, he went and did this whole 3 books and all the control and stuff. And there's no need to go into details, but there's this agenda of control. And he wrote like 300 pages, you know, with like expertise and notes, and you cannot deny it anymore. If we talk in scientific terms, he just wrote 300 pages with like links, everything's there. Like if you're serious and you read that, you cannot say it's not true. But then he goes like, yeah, that's true. However, we must not judge that. We must not think that we're right. So his greatness is, for me, is like he's able to go and get to the truth of things, and then not take that point of view because like, oh, I just spent 30 years of my life and risked everything and almost died, but I'm not making it significant. What is important is the heart. So he would go and explain how the manipulation works, and he'd be really clear and direct and no fear on it. And he goes like, this is it, and we all know what's all about. And then he would just go, yeah, but the moment we judge it, we just lost the game. So the moment we start judging them, you know, and this is the kind of trick, it's to be aware and not to judge, which kind of struggling with, because we're aware of the manipulation. The natural response is anger because it's a lie. I was listening to Dane here saying, like Dr. Dane here, who was saying, when we feel like we empaths, when something's a lie, we feel it. And there's so many lies going, it's crazy the amount of lies, you know, just speaking about it is heavy. But he was like, okay, once you, like Patrick Rajan, once you're in this space of heart or love and awareness, you can hold that awareness and not react. And then you're really powerful. So like the power is like, oh, that's happening. Oh yeah, we're not subscribing to that. We're just going beyond it. So it's about going beyond this reality. And he's done it. So I know there's more people like him, but for him, I really love him because he's so gentle and powerful. So if you want to do a revolution, it's like be gentle and powerful. And that's the trick.
Ungrateful. You know? He was talking about gratefulness all the time. To be grateful every moment for the things you have right now. For you, for his horse, Capra, and his apple, and little things, because he was ill, and he's ill at that moment, but he's still grateful. He don't take time and waste time of thinking what's wrong with him, but to be in this moment and be grateful for this moment right now. Like, I'm grateful now that you are here with me.
Yeah, and I'm grateful for this conversation because it's kind of bringing something new. And the funny thing is, like, I was speaking about Slovenia, this and that, but Slovenia is beautiful. We have like clean water, which is the biggest, more worth than gold or diamonds. We have fresh, we have earth and then fresh eco bio amazing
This
lettuce and
forests and
stuff.
so.
And that's practically non-existent, unfortunately, at the moment. What we have is amazing. Like there's only a few places on earth that still have like healthy ecological food where it grows from the ground. It's like for free. Like in America, it costs like fucking hundreds of euros to get a freaking apple. Here, just pick it up. So like we have amazing thing, and that's something worth protecting. And I was just thinking about this morning, not to go into judgment, but also going, this is precious and this is sacred, and that needs to be protected. And there's no debate here. Like we're not gonna allow the forces of unconsciousness to take this away from us. We might find more ingenious ways and more wise ways to see through the manipulation, which is what Carl is doing, but we're not gonna allow that to happen, and there'll be no debate. So it's like to be like in this warrior sense of like not wanting to fight, but be very clear, like this is just not happening. Which is like Dr. Dane here, or Gary, or people access consciousness, or many different people. That's what I really appreciate, to be gentle and strong at the same time. That's what it used to mean, and that's necessary, and that's the way to go somewhere else than where we are, I think.
Now I just remember, because we were talking a lot about fear, and what is your thoughts about the fear? What is fear for you?
I think it's a limitation. If like fear is a limitation, but like for me, it's like a feeling in the body. It's trying to prevent you from going to jump for your destiny. And it's not wrong. It's just there. I was thinking about this woman, Pema Chodron. She's a Buddhist practitioner, a really amazing woman. And I was saying in the last time we spoke, when I was going through really difficult times and afraid of everything, I was in constant fear and anxiety and beyond understanding. But I was listening to this woman. She said, like, feel the fear and do it anyway. And so it's courage is overcoming the fear. Courage is not being fearless. Being fearless is stupid. There are some, not to have different fears, like it's a hard discussion, but generally, like, fear is just an opportunity to overcome it. And it's not easy. For me, it's been like a decade of inner work and doing stuff, but like it's a gift. Like in a way, fear is a gift, because it's kind of going, look, I'm going to give you this really heavy stone to carry, and then you'll get really strong carrying it, and then you'll throw it away and you'll be like super strong. Like people who do sports and they go running and they carry the weights, like they put weights where they're running. So then once they put them up, they're really fast. So that's that's the good use of fear. And the not so helpful is like when someone else is trying to scare you, like the COVID and the pandemics and all that stuff. And people go conspiracy, like those is not fucking conspiracy theories. That's just the truth. And anyone who doesn't know it, you'll know it till the end of the year. Everything will be revealed. So we're not going to discuss that. But the point is, like, when somebody's trying to scare you, even if they would have good intentions, they don't, but even if they would, if I'm using fear to try to achieve something, that's manipulation and deceit. And that just feels really heavy for me. And I'm not having that, so there's two. But the gifting is like, oh, you're trying to scare me, so now I have to just overcome that fear and become stronger. So it's a tool of deceit, and it's a gift at the same time. Depends how you deal with it, I guess.
Yeah, it's also in a way in Access. Sometimes we said that this is also something we put some agenda, some program they gave us to us, that because many people, when you gave them this feeling of fear, then they ask someone else to save them, to do something for them.
Yes.
And in reality, what is, if this is not bad, like you said, or even like this, it is some kind of energy. So how I consume this, it's my decision. So if you do something bad to me or give me a lot of fears, and I said just, okay, thank you, you give me the energy. And I can be grateful, or even for this. So everything I can turn into the energy. And so if you are bad or mean to me, and I can say, oh, thank you. And you said, yeah, are you crazy? No, I just thank you, because you give me now a lot of energy, because anger, fear, that kind of emotions are really a lot of energy around this. So if I don't care about what you did say to me, I just receive the energy, I can use it for better things.
This thought came to me. There's this quote from, I don't know, some Sufi tradition, I'm not sure. It's like, there's something like, it's like, you have two ways to live a life. You can fear, second, how it's like, you can fear everything in life, or you can just fear God, and God can be anything. But like, the point is, like, it's not exactly the quote, but like, how it means for me, if you're like only afraid to not be your true self or like connected to the, if that is your only and biggest fear, then all other fears are nothing. It's like and that's how the Sufis live. That's how
Yeah.
the people in the East, they have no fear because they have faith and knowing, and like it's an embodied knowing. It's not this mental thing. Oh, I'm trying to convince them. No. It's like they know. I don't know much about, but they have this wealth of tradition where they're so connected to source that nothing scares them. Even if they die, it doesn't matter. Like I was watching videos from Palestine and Gaza and horrible things that are happening. It's not political, but you had people there who were like dying and losing everything, and they were just like, Inshallah. And they were just like, that's how it's meant to be, and they meant it. They really, you could see they were at peace. They were like, I'm ready to leave at any time, and still they were giving and supporting and helping those who had nothing. And going, wow, like those are the real masters. This is not political, but it's like the real master is like they're losing, not now, for decades they've been losing everything. They're in the worst possible place that I don't know, maybe there's other places, but like at the moment it's the worst place to be on earth, and they still kept their faith. That's like that sainthood for me. Like when you can be in that place, that's enlightenment. And that's like those are my masters. Like I'm nothing, I know nothing, like we know nothing comparing to where they're at. That's kind of how to face fear.
Is it connected with also this? Because the daughter of Gary Douglas said once, when we will stop dying, we will start to live life. Because we are so used to fear to die. So if you know that you are in infinitive being, so I can lose my body, but I will not lose me. So I'm not afraid of dying anymore. And if you are not afraid of dying, then you can be here and just be. And then all you just explained is so normal, so natural. Yeah, it's hard, but I know that I am here.
Well, if I can answer that question, like what's been coming is like, in the old ancient traditions, you had like initiations. Initiations were really heavy and difficult, and people did die. I'm not saying we should do that, but I'm saying like in the ancient cultures, before a boy could be a man, he had to go through something really difficult, and he could die. There was a real possibility he will die, and if he survived, he was a man. If he didn't, well, he didn't. For them it was different, and like it's just this is one example, and I'm not teaching this, but there's this example of the Hawaiian kahunas. Kahunas were the medicine men in the Hawaiian Isles, like hundreds, thousands of years ago, and their initiation was like for real. Once you studied to be a kahuna for like 10 years, and at the end you would be taken in the middle of the sea and thrown into in between sharks, and pig's blood would be poured next to it. Like what? And then you had to sit in that around the sharks and have to look the shark in the eye and decide you're not going to eat yourself today. You had to be aware that shark is me, I am the shark, not mentally, but it was a test. Are they really in oneness? And if they were, they decided not to eat themselves. And if they were just food for fish. And it's brutal. And I'm not saying you should do it, but for them, that's how it was. And that's why they were or are one of the most powerful shamans alive. Not that I'm comparing, but like the initiations were difficult. They had to be challenging. That's what growth meant. And nowadays we don't have that anymore. We have some kind of weird graduation ceremony, which means nothing. And I've done it, it's nice, but it doesn't feel like anything. And that's what's missing. I can only speak for men. For women, it's different, but that's what's missing for young boys like me. Like I'm still growing up to be a man, like 38 or 37. That was impossible sometimes because, like, if you're 12 and you were just like, it didn't work that way. And nowadays, for a lot of boys, we have lots of depression and illness and mental health issues because we don't have initiations. And then people go and create initiations for themselves in very unhealthy ways, but it's like globally, perhaps.
But they are not aware that they are doing this initiation. They're just doing it because something is missing.
Yeah, so just globally, maybe we can see this as an initiation, like the last 2 or 3 years or what's coming, and people have all kinds of ideas what's going to happen this year. And it's not to scare people, but like, things might come that are beyond crazy, and how we're going to face it, that's going to show who we are. So it's going to universe or God or going, let's see if you really know who you are. Because, I just wrote before on Facebook, it's like, workshops, initiations, that's all fine. But how you deal with real life, that's the real test. How you deal when nothing works and everything's fucked and you're going, that's the real test. And, and for me, every day, it's like, okay, here we go again. So maybe now it's like, okay, you've done the the workshops and the healings and all of that and keep doing it. But how do you live your life? Maybe this year is gonna give us like, okay, let's see. Let's see if you're serious. And if you're not serious, it's not a problem. Just go and play somewhere else. You know, so it's like the stakes are higher, I guess. That's kind of what's happening.
Yeah. But when you are speaking about this initiation, I remember that not so long ago, I listened to some video, and I remembered a lot of times when people who are living in the wild with wild animals, and animals just accept them. It is
Yeah.
the same. You need to be without fear and really be sure in yourself that these animals will not eat you or harm you, and they are just walking around them and they never touch them.
Yeah.
And someone else just comes and they will eat them right away.
Yeah.
Because they have all these fears and they are wild, they will eat you, because and you become one with them. They're just accepting you.
Well, there's many cases, like St. Francis is one example, or many like holy men, they just lived in the wild and tigers wouldn't touch them because I don't know why, but they're probably so full of compassion and love that there was no aggression towards the animals. Animals will feel fear or aggression. If they feel fear or aggression, they'll attack. But if they don't feel that, they'll just be at peace. And there's two things that's kind of coming. I was minding, like I was in Iceland for some reason. I was in Iceland this summer, and we were driving, like four of us in a car, and there was like a friend of mine, Shiva is his name, and he was really calm and at ease all the time. And we're driving in this four-wheeled wheeler, which like completely broken down. Then and we're driving on the road, and he starts going left and right in the middle of like 80, 90 hours, and I'm going freaked out. He's just completely calm, and I'm like, wow. And he was just completely calm, and like we could have died, but he didn't flinch, and I was like, wow. Like that's where I saw like respect. And I spoke to him, and he lived in the wild for 10 years with nothing and all of that. So he actually embodied that. But he died so many times that now it didn't, there was no reaction. That was we probably wouldn't die, but we could, But he didn't flinch, not even for a second. I was like, wow, I want to learn how to do that, And there's people like that. Carl Gajan is one of them in different ways. There's different ways people achieve that, but maybe life is calling us to go closer to that place. And then it doesn't matter where you are or which country or what you do, because that's inner peace, like inner peace for real, not inner peace for real, not just inner peace when we're sitting on the mat and I'm very mindful, and that's okay, but that's just preparation.
And I like about Carl Gujan, because when you met people like that, they are still compassion, because sometimes they said, oh, if I will be all this, then I will be without feelings. I will not be compassion. I don't care about anything else. It is totally opposite. They are really compassion. They're totally grateful for everything, and they are still hurting in a way. These people also don't like the situation which are bad for people, but they accepting it at the same time. They are still here. They are not without feelings.
Well, there's two things come to mind again. It's like my own teacher in Zen. He's kept saying, and it's an old Buddhist teaching, basically, that this Milarepa was this famous Tibetan saint, which said like, sorry, he was like, no emptiness and have compassion. The emptiness is like shunyata, the oneness, the nothingness in a good way, but compassion is love. So it's emptiness and compassion. If you only have emptiness, then you're in this no feeling state. You can become this arrogant thing, and that's not good. If you're just compassion, then you're like, oh, I'm just love, but I'm broken, I can't help, and and you're not useful. So being just in emptiness, you can develop spiritual ego. Being just in love, you can function in 3D. So you kind of need both, and that's the integration, I guess. That's the aim. Like the warrior and the healer, the monk and the worker, like to go beyond the duality and live in duality. That's kind of the goal, I guess.
So it is also some kind of balance in life.
Yeah. It's funny, I was reading this other book from Vienna who did Theta Healing, and she was saying that once supposedly she did this meditation. He was like, creator, take me to the most enlightened being on earth or universe. And she said she was surprised she was taking to a tree. And trees are the most enlightened beings. They just are. And we would think, it's a sage somewhere, and maybe they are, but like, no, it was a tree. And I was going, yeah, that feels right. I mean, go and sit under a tree and you will feel it. There will be no debating, so We have lots of trees here, like 80% of Slovenia is forest, and oh my God, so we have enlightened beings
Some
everywhere.
trees are really, really, really old, and they're still here, and they survive all these eras and different
And coming back
history.
to Slovenia and what's good about it, like we have like I was walking the other day and some woods is like 4,000-year-old oak, which is like, oh my God, that nobody knows about it. Like, not to speak bad, but like in America, if there was something that would put this huge advertisement and people would be millions, and here it's like, oh, here's a 3,000-year-old oak, it's nothing special. It's like people don't even know, but like everything's ancient here. Everything is ancient.
That is also have in America. They said, yeah, you are old, you have old houses. Yeah, and so what? Yeah, for us this is so old houses, 100 years old houses for them already. Wow.
And
we have thousands years.
Yeah, and it's like the ancient monoliths that Carl Grzan found, all connected with the stars. Like people go to Egypt and it's great, but we have it all here. Like everything's here, but we can't think, oh no, it cannot be. It must be all fake because we don't value ourselves. We're kind of been so beaten down, and there's a whole story behind. But we don't respect ourselves or love ourselves. We can't even perceive that there's ancient sacred things here, which is older than the pyramids, older than anything. Like there's the Bosnian pyramids, but here, the Carl Grzan found like in that place where he lived, they're like ancient monoliths, which are just like wow, but we cannot accept that. So maybe the problem for Slovenia is allowing to accept our greatness and our power and our potency and all we could become. So it's not that it's not everything's here, we just don't see it. I don't even see it. Maybe I'll have to go and visit it, So it's like it's not that we don't have things. We have everything, but for different reasons we go like, oh, that just can't be true. The mind is so
in some way they program us that we are nothing, that we are just like slaves, that
it's historically
we always have someone. But before that and before that and before that, we were a big nation. We were not just some how would you say
yeah, we weren't slaves basically. So yeah, that's a whole different debate, and I think that's gonna slowly come out because we can have theories and then people start arguing, oh, that's not true, and then we get into a debate and it's an academic thing, and that's not really helpful because of course, let me just finish, because there's no proof because nothing was written down in those days. So there's never gonna be proof. Even everything was made out of wood, so everything just went away. Which doesn't mean that there wasn't ancient civilizations, but they were different than we are. And maybe now, when everything's changing, things will just come out naturally instead of us trying to prove, because it can become very unhealthy. Then, oh, we're gonna prove now, and there's what I've seen, that's the problem, people who are really traumatized, instead of going into healing, and I've done that, go into super spiritual ego, now I'm the best and everybody else is shit, So it's either like I'm nothing and I'm shit, or everybody else is shit. And I've seen in Slovenia, unfortunately, not to name names, but people come from like, oh, we're nothing or we're everything. And it's like, no, it's balance. Carl Grzan is the first person to actually goes like, yes, we must heal and love ourselves, but not think that we're better than anyone, because there is no better or worse. So maybe the reason why we can't come into contact who we are, because there's a tendency to jump from nothing to everything, and this polarity. So it's Carl Grzan's talking about the game of polarity. That's the real manipulation, and it's outside and inside, and to go beyond that, and that takes strength, and go beyond the fears, because fear is one polarity, love is the other, but in love itself it's not. But it's like we have to go beyond polarity, or like heal even basic childhood traumas and stuff, and then you can go and accept that power. Because for myself, 10 years ago, I was like feeling really bad, and then I went to my teacher and I became really like, oh, everything great, I can heal the world now. It's ridiculous, but that's a natural response, like when you're nothing and you want to become everything, and then you're nothing again, and you're kind of being thrown from up down. And I've been noticing lately that this is just my experience, and Alcazar speaks about the Stargate, but it's like there is the new world that already exists. So there is this new earth energetically, you can plug into that, and then there's 3D earth, which is falling into pieces. And that's like not I'm not thinking spiritually, like realistically, 3D earth is falling to pieces, and realistically there is potential to go beyond that, and it's just what are you going to choose. And sometimes you plug into oneness and had amazing days, everything's great and beautiful, and then you thrown down back to nothing. So it's like to have less of that, less and less of that being thrown here and there and to bring imbalance, you know, which is what
Yeah.
Quran is speaking about. So that's kind of maybe
He was talking about that a lot, yes, that nobody is over someone else. We are all the same, even if we have a different education and everything, but we are still all this oneness, this everything. And he was also giving us a good example of a new world, about story about one little guy who their parents bring him because he wants to say hello to him, and he said that he loves him, and he said that he knows that the new world is coming. He said, how you know? Because everything will be okay. And he said, I knew that was the sign for me, because they always tell us to be afraid of something. And this little boy tells him that they tell him to tell to Pater that everything will be okay. He said, that's, I know that it's true, because the ones who don't, they are always want us to be afraid of something. And then after, the little boy comes with a balloon, and when he give it to Pater, it broke. And the boy becomes sad, and the Gerjan said, no, this is not okay. This is old world who is dying. And then the guy ran to the parents and bring a new balloon and said, and this is a new world who is becoming. And he was so happy. So it is so easy. And the children look at this very practically. This one is dying, this one is coming, and it will not be a big problem. Everything will be okay.
Well, you know, there's many things to comment here. First is like, that was a messenger from the mystery, and children's are messengers from the mystery, and it's our job to recognize them. And exactly, you know, in some cultures, they had this awareness that everyone's a messenger from the mystery. I remember years ago when I went to Sarajevo's crazy trips, and I just was looking for a tikya. It's a Muslim Sufi monastery. And it was a magical. I just found it, and this Sufi opens the door, invites me in, and tells me all about it. And I was like, wow, this is real. And he said that the Sufis believe that everyone who comes is a messenger from the mystery. So they accept everyone with full honor and respect and love and give them everything. So I wasn't Muslim, but I was just interested. He would just treat me as a messenger from the mystery, and everyone's treated like that. And that's like respect. And when you're at that level of respect, then you can get truth from higher spheres, you know? And like in other cultures, like anything can be a messenger, a bird or a tree or a rock or the wind. Like the shamans would listen to nature, and we kind of lost that ability, because this balloon could be also like overblown ego. Like myself, you have this huge overblown ego, which is kind of feeding on trauma and stuff, and it's not even real, but it needs to pop. Like you can't really like take a little bit of air out. That's not gonna work. You just need to pop it, and it's okay. But you're like, oh no, we're gonna die. So what? You know, like if you're afraid of death, you're not living anyway. And I'm not saying, you know, that I live that, and I'm not saying that is a good or a bad thing, but I am saying if you spend your whole life afraid of death, you're not living anyway, so who fucking cares, you know? So just pop it, just pop it. That's what Zen does, or like certain tradition. They just pop the whole ego. They don't go slowly, slowly, slowly. You know, you can spend 10 lifetimes doing it. There's nothing wrong. They can just pop it, and then you die. And then if you survive, it's like the kahuna, you know? There's the shark, you decide not to eat yourself. And if you do, then you're just gone. But you know, people would not judge it. It's hard for our mind to understand. I'm not saying we should go do that, because we're not Hawaiian, we're not kahuna. You should find your own way and what that means in your own life. So it's different nowadays, but you need to, it is helpful for us like Slovenians to see, create our own initiation. I don't know what that is. Go to the wood, and I don't know what it is, but you need to find your own initiation.
Find your own ways to die, to kill this ego and to survive.
I like that. You need to find your own ways to die. That's cool. Yeah.
Super great. Samo, for the end of our conversation, because I don't want to tire you a lot, because you said that you have a problem.
Yeah.
What would you give us for the end of this conversation?
Yeah, I think I would just say trust yourself. You know, it sounds like a cliche, but it's not if you really, really do it. And trust yourself. It's not in a mental way, or not to do affirmations and stuff, but it's more like whatever comes this year, whatever happens in the world, in yourself, just trust that you will know how to face it, even if you die. You're not gonna die, it's probably gonna be fine, but like even if a part of you dies, or a relationship dies or an idea about the world, even if whatever needs to die, to just let it die gracefully, and that can be achieved if you know yourself and trust yourself, even if you don't trust yourself anyway. And don't trust me, don't trust Barbara. Listen to this whole thing again, and then see if it resonates with you, if it feels light, if it feels true. If it feels true, take it, and if not, forget about it, and just
take
find
your own way.
Yeah. I think find your own way would be the best thing to finish. Yeah.
Samo, thank you.
Thank you.
I always enjoy talking with you because you are open new things to think about. And also with the Carl, he also said like that. Don't take everything I tell. Don't believe me.
Oh yeah,
just
and maybe
re-listen,
yeah,
and then
sorry to interrupt.
choose.
What I'm kind of saying, I would open an invitation for people who don't come to Slovenia, like come to this ancient, beautiful, magical land, and you will love it. Like, I'll take you. Like, just come. Like wherever you live, I'm sure there's many, but like come here. There's magic and mystery here because I need other people to come so I can show them what's here. I don't even know, but when other people come, they see it with different eyes. When I went to Ireland, I went to all the ancient places and I was like, oh my God, it's amazing. My other friend was like, yeah, whatever, it's a rock. And I was like, it's a sacred rock. And he was like, yeah, I needed you to show me that. And I went to Iceland. I was like, oh my God, look at this, is amazing. You know, so it's like an invitation for people who feel called to come to Slovenia and see what this is all about. And then maybe I will learn more about this place, and God knows what else is possible. You know, that's kind of an invitation.
So it is maybe a time also for Slovenian people to be more grateful for everything we have here.
Yeah. Definitely.
Because like for us, when you do something and you don't give acknowledgement to yourself when you achieve something, and then you all the time think that you are not good enough, this is the same. We also sometimes we think that Slovenia is not good enough. What if everything is good enough? We just need to find our way.
Yeah, what if everything is good enough?
Yeah. So also our throat or eyes or whatever hurting you, what's wrong or what is right with this? Samo, did you? Samo is frozen.
Yeah, frozen. What's good about this?
Yeah, you are frozen like on a princess from this story. So thank you, Samo. I am so grateful.
Thank you.
And I see you soon, I hope. And we will talk again.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.